In a twist of political fate that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago, Republicans are now publicly renouncing Donald Trump in droves. The once dominant figurehead of the GOP is facing a dramatic shift in support as former loyalists, conservative leaders, and everyday voters are turning against him. As we approach the 2024 election, prominent Republicans are stepping forward to denounce Trump's behavior, leadership, and ideology, declaring their support for his Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris. The exodus is accelerating as numerous Republican voices, once staunchly supportive of Trump, now raise the alarm over his character and leadership. From former GOP representatives to everyday voters who once rallied behind his Make America Great Again slogan, a new wave of Republican opposition is emerging, painting a grim picture for Trump's chances in the upcoming election. This video delves into the key players of this movement, examines the reasons behind their rejection of Trump, and explores the larger implications for the Republican Party. The Republican exodus begins. The Republican Party has long been divided over Trump's leadership, but the current wave of defections represents a significant and unprecedented fracture within the GOP. Former Republican leaders who once stood by Trump during his presidency are now making media appearances, releasing videos, and writing op-eds denouncing him as unfit for office. One of the most notable voices to emerge from this Republican exodus is Bob Inglis, a former GOP representative from South Carolina. In a recent interview with CNN, Inglis expressed his firm rejection of Trump, stating that his decision to endorse Kamala Harris is not merely a vote of confidence for the vice president, but, more critically, a rejection of Donald Trump. Trump is disqualified based on his character and irrationality, said Inglis. We're not dealing with a totally rational actor, and we need someone who can lead with integrity. Inglis' sentiments are echoed by countless other Republicans who have come forward, including influential figures from within the party. Many are particularly concerned about Trump's erratic behavior and dangerous rhetoric, which they believe could further divide the country and damage America's standing on the global stage. They argue that Trump's actions during his presidency, particularly his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and his attempts to overturn the 2020 election, have disqualified him from holding office again. Former Trump voters speak out. It's not just political elites who are abandoning Trump. Everyday Americans who once voted for him are now speaking out, admitting that their support for the former president was a mistake. One such individual is JP, a former Trump voter and self-described American traditionalist who has gained attention for his viral posts on social media. In one such post, JP recounts the moment he realized he could no longer support Trump. My wife and I are voting Democrat this year for the first time. We've been making jokes about it around the house, but the truth is, this is serious. Trump has betrayed this country, and it's time we move on. He added that Trump's call to terminate the Constitution was the final straw, cementing his decision to support Kamala Harris in the upcoming election. JP's posts have resonated with many disillusioned Republicans, some of whom are now questioning their allegiance to Trump. If you still support Trump, you're ignoring the facts, JP writes, pointing out that under President Joe Biden's administration, inflation has dropped below 3%, crime is at a 50-year low, and the U.S. economy is performing strongly. These facts, he argues, directly contradict the misinformation propagated by Trump and his allies. A growing movement, Republicans for Harris. As the 2024 election approaches, more and more former Trump voters are rallying behind Vice President Kamala Harris, seeing her as the only viable alternative to Trump's divisive leadership. Groups like Republican Voters Against Trump (RVAT) have gained significant momentum, promoting testimonials from former Republicans who now support Harris. These individuals come from all walks of life, united by their shared belief that Trump is no longer fit to lead. Michael, a physician from Hawaii, is another example of a former Trump voter who has switched his support to Harris. In a video posted by RVAT, Michael explains that Trump's mishandling of the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly his opposition to vaccines, was a major factor in his decision. Donald Trump is a hazard to public health, says Michael. His stand against vaccination and alignment with anti-science movements is dangerous. I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she understands the importance of science-based policies. Michael's sentiments are not unique. Across the country, more former Trump voters are citing his denial of science, his mishandling of public health crises, and his inflammatory rhetoric as reasons for their defection. They argue that Trump's leadership style is dangerous, not just for the U.S., but for the world. Gila, a former Republican from Nevada, also voiced her disillusionment with Trump, explaining that the events of January 6, 2021, were a turning point for her. As a lifelong Republican, I've always believed in fiscal responsibility, respect for the law and the Constitution, she said. But after January 6th, I realized that Trump does not represent those values. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, has shown that she is willing to work hard, listen to others, and uphold the values of democracy. Trump's legal woes and public image crumble. While Republicans like Inglis, JP, Michael, and Gila continue to speak out, Trump's legal troubles are piling up, further tarnishing his image and leading many Republicans to question their support. From the numerous indictments related to his involvement in the January 6th insurrection to the revelations of his mishandling of classified documents, Trump is now a deeply polarizing figure, even among his former base. Joe, a former Trump voter from North Carolina, expressed his concern over the possibility of America electing a president who is entangled in legal battles. It's offensive to think about America having a president who's a felon, he said. We need strong leadership, not a narcissist who's more focused on himself than the country. The selection of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate has done little to reassure voters like Joe. Vance, a staunch MAGA Republican, has drawn criticism for his inflammatory rhetoric and controversial policy positions, further alienating moderate Republicans. Vance is not right for the country, says Joe. I'm much more confident that we can recover from a Harris presidency than another term under Trump. The Republican Party's identity crisis. Trump's influence has left the Republican Party in the midst of an identity crisis. While a segment of the GOP remains fiercely loyal to him, others are increasingly uncomfortable with the party's direction. The MAGA movement, once seen as a populist uprising, has become a liability for Republicans who value traditional conservatism. They view Trump as a corrupt and divisive figure who has strayed too far from the party's core principles. The Republican exodus isn't just a reflection of dissatisfaction with Trump. It's also a rejection of what the GOP has become. The party's alignment with far-right extremists, conspiracy theorists, and individuals like Matt Gaetz, who has faced allegations of attending sex parties with minors, has left many Republicans disillusioned. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign has seized on this growing discontent. In a recent advertisement, Harris's team took aim at Trump's close ally, Mark Robinson, the scandal-plagued lieutenant governor of North Carolina. The ad juxtaposes Trump and Robinson, highlighting their extreme views on issues like abortion, which Robinson has referred to as killing a child because you aren't responsible enough to keep your skirt down. For Republicans like Gila, these extreme positions are part of the reason why they've decided to leave the party. Kamala Harris has shown that she's willing to work across the aisle and listen to different perspectives, Gila says. That's what we need right now, not more division. As the 2024 election draws nearer, the defections from Trump's camp are only likely to increase. The former president, once seen as the undisputed leader of the GOP, is now facing an unprecedented rebellion from within his own party. Former supporters are coming forward in droves to renounce him, citing his erratic behavior, legal troubles, and divisive rhetoric as reasons for their departure. The Republican Party's identity crisis, coupled with Trump's tarnished image, has opened the door for a new kind of leadership. For many former Republicans, that leader is Kamala Harris. While they may not agree with every Democratic policy, they see Harris as a pragmatic, steady hand, someone who can restore dignity and order to the White House and the country. The 2024 election could prove to be a defining moment not just for Donald Trump, but for the Republican Party as a whole. Will the GOP continue to follow the path laid out by Trump and his MAGA loyalists, or will the growing number of defectors force the party to rethink its direction? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear. Republicans are fleeing Trump in droves, and the movement shows no signs of slowing down.